Hi, my name is Philip Kreger, and I will be your professor for CTS3348, Linux Administration for fall of 2014. In this brief video, I'll cover the finer points of the syllabus. I expect you to download the syllabus and read that during the first week of courses. And in a moment, my talking head's going to go away because it doesn't serve any useful purpose. So at the top of the syllabus, which hopefully you've downloaded and started to read, we've got a lot of information about the basics of the course and the location and my office hours, so let's go over those quickly. My office is in the Advanced Technology Center, 107L, which is off of Williamson Boulevard. It's not on the main campus. As you can see, my class-related email is listed there. Notice that my real first name is John. And so class-related email should go to Falcon Mail. There's my phone number on the screen, and my office hours are Tuesday through Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So what are you expected to learn in this course? Well, lots of good stuff. Whether you realize it or not, when you're on the web and you're browsing and you're using a lot of the social media or just browsing websites, you're accessing a server which is running Linux. Google, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, almost every service probably that's out there is going to be running some version of Linux. And so it's important for you as a student to understand something about Linux and how to administer it. So you see the course description listed there. You can read that on your own. As well as the learning outcomes. There's actually a lot more learning outcomes than that, but those are very broad brushes of what you'll be learning in this course. I don't assume, in terms of prerequisites, that you know anything about Linux. A lot of students get in here and say, well, gee, I don't know anything about Linux. Well, this is your first class. I don't expect you to know anything about Linux. However, I do expect you to have prior experience with computer hardware and software and network services and networked operating systems, such as Windows or Mac OS X. So your required text is a freely downloadable PDF called the Root Linux tutorial, and that will be on our website on the wiki, and I'll show you where that is shortly. It also shows here that if you don't have a PDF reader, I suggest Foxit for Windows. If you're using Mac OS X, there's one called Skim. It's much smaller and faster and lighter and more efficient than Adobe Reader. So just FYI, you should try that out. Okay, we're actually going to be using a couple of websites, one of which is D2L, which you should have learned previously in other courses. And we will use that for our discussion groups, of which there are 3, for submitting assignments through the Dropbox, and for the news section, which is important, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. There's no in-class. Everything will be video lectures, and they're usually 10 minutes to maybe 30 to 40 minutes. And I've edited these down so that instead of going and sitting in a class for 2 or 3 hours, you've got a short, brief, well-edited video that will take you much less long to watch than being in a class that has lots of cruft to it and extraneous material. And also you can go back, and this is great about this course, you can go back and rerun the video if you don't understand something. So that's why video lectures are really good. Core software, well, if we're going to be using Linux, you're going to have to have access to Linux. And the way we do that is through something called VMware, which allows you to run other operating systems on your primary computer. And I'm assuming that most of you, probably maybe 95 to 100%, will have a Windows box. That's fine. So VMware typically is $180. However, because you were a student during the first week, I will sign you up through something called VMware Academy, where you can then go and download VMware Workstation and install that. Just follow the prompts, and I've actually got a video that shows you how to install VMware. And then you're going to install a distribution of Linux called Mint, and you can see there on the screen the link for that. And this shows you the version to install. Cinnamon with no codecs, 32-bit, or Mate, 32-bit. And actually that should be no codecs, but you'll be fine right here too. Now those have different graphical interfaces. However, we really won't be using the graphical interface. We'll be doing everything from the command line. Well, that's much harder. Well, tough. And the reason we do this is because when you go to administer a server, there is no graphical interface. It's all from the command line. And it sounds really scary, and it probably is for the first week or two, but once you start doing it, you'll become acclimated to it, and it won't be that big a deal. Instructions for downloading VMware. If you already have an account with VMware Academy, you won't be receiving an email. If you've already got that account, that means you've probably already got VMware Workstation installed on your computer, and you probably already have Linux installed on your computer. If not, this is the first time you've accessed VMware Academy. When I create the account, you will receive an email from VMware Academy. Make sure you don't delete that email, and then just follow the instructions for downloading and installing VMware. How to contact me. Okay, if you've got a question or a concern that's only related to you, go ahead and email me at Falcon Mail, or you can call me by phone at the number on the screen. If you have a question about anything to do with the course, go ahead and post that question or concern to the Ask the Professor discussion group. I want you to ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Now, there are not smart questions, and I'll go over that in the next bullet. But I want you to go ahead and ask questions in the Ask the Professor discussion group. So instead of having to answer 6 emails regarding the same topic, I can go ahead and post a nice detailed answer one time in the discussion group. And so if you email me a question during the second or third or fourth week of class, and it's something to do with the course, I'll say, please post this to the Ask the Discussion group, so be warned about that. Now, asking smart questions. So I went to the doctor the other day, and I had a pain in my foot, and it was caused by walking in some shoes. I walk about 5 miles a day, and I have a plantar fasciitis. Okay, let's say I already know this, but I go into the doctor and I say, hey, doctor, my foot hurts. What's wrong? Now think about that. What would the doctor say? First of all, I know a lot of background information that I could tell the doctor so that the doctor could then give me a diagnosis and a treatment. However, I didn't provide the doctor enough information initially in order for him or her to make a diagnosis and to provide a treatment regimen. I want you to think the same way when you're posting to the discussion group. If you have an issue with anything, make sure that you provide a detailed question that provides sufficient background information that I can provide you with a good answer. Hopefully that makes sense. So there's an Ask the Professor discussion group. There's also a general discussion group that's used for student communication. You can post anything there, questions or comments, or talk about football, or I really don't care what you talk about. As long as you don't post anything related to answers to the tests or to the assignments. That's a big no-no. Do not do that, because that's considered cheating. The content and organization of the course, that's approximately how we move through this course. Some of that might not make sense to you, but I guarantee it will by the end of the course. Okay, attendance. How do you show that you're attending? Well, during the first week of class, I have to find out whether you are actually participating in the course. The way we do this online is you take a pre-test quiz, which serves 2 purposes. And notice up here it says you must take this by September 2nd at 11:55 p.m. I think it's like 25 multiple choice questions. It's no big deal. If you do take this, then I can then indicate that you're attending the course, and then if you're on financial aid, you can get your financial aid. If you don't, then I have no clue whether you're attending the course, and I have to mark you as absent, and you won't get your financial aid. Also, be aware, because this is a pretest, I assume you know nothing. So if you come in and you know nothing and you take the pretest quiz and you get a 0 or 25, guess what? I don't care. It doesn't count toward your grade. It has nothing to do with your grade. What does count is that I will compare that pretest score to your score on the final exam. And I've never had any student in 10 years who does as poorly or worse on the final than they did on the pretest. What does that indicate? That you actually learned something. So that pretest serves two useful purposes, so don't worry about your grade on the pretest quiz. Just take it and move on. Some other information about the course. I can't withdraw you from the course. You must do that yourself. If at the end of if for some reason you decide not to keep attending and following along with a course and you don't withdraw formally, I have no other steps to take but to give you an F for non-attendance in the course. And that's just something that I'm forced to do. So make sure that you follow the instructions that are listed in the syllabus and on the screen if you decide for some reason you need to withdraw. If you have a disability, please make sure that you contact Student Disability Services so they can verify you need specific accommodations, and then they will send me an email, and then I can provide those accommodations. And typically that's only going to be for testing purposes, not for assignments, so just remember that. There's also information about the Academic Support Center, the College Writing Center, Library Services. You can read that on your own. The Daytona State Academic Integrity Policy, make sure you read that. Do not cheat. The interesting thing is that I change the assignments every semester. So you'll never see, if you took this 10 times, you're never going to see the same exact assignments. And I have some students where I might change one or two little things in an assignment, but they give an answer from the previous semester. That doesn't look good, and that means you're cheating. If I find out that you are cheating, I will fail you for the course, and I will forward that documentation to DSC administration. There's no reason to cheat in this course. I show you exactly how to do the things that I request on the assignment. I might change something here or there, but if you've practiced as I've indicated you should, then there will be no issue. Now this says there are 7 assignments here. I have to go back and change the syllabus because there's only 5 assignments. This I don't know why this says 7 here. There's 5 assignments and 2 tests, and we'll get to that in a second. You must upload your assignment to the Dropbox on Florida Online by the assigned time and date to receive credit. I do not accept late assignments. Read that again. I do not accept late assignments. It's not fair to other students. And invariably, there's 1 or 2 students that say, I tried to log in on Florida Online at 11:54 or 11:50 and I couldn't get in. Well, then you waited too late. I'm sorry about that. Your final grade will be determined as follows. Assignments is 70% and tests is 30%. Oops, that's where I got that 70 from. Yeah. The scale for our grades, as you can see there, it's fairly standard. There will be 2 quizzes on Florida Online. There'll be a midterm and a final. There'll be multiple choice questions. Open book with 35 to 50 questions. You better study for it, and if you do your assignments, you've actually studied for it. If you've done well on them, then you should have no problem doing the getting a good grade on the tests. If you think that you're going to have enough, I'm going to give you enough time, 4 or 5 hours for 35 or 50 questions, so you can go Google the answers. Let me disabuse you of that fact, is that you need to study in order to do well on the quizzes. Now, something important, the naming convention, is that I require that you name your assignments in a specific format. For example, if your name is John Smith, for the first assignment, your assignment has to be named john.smith.1.text. For the 4th assignment, what will the name of your assignment be? john.smith.4.text. The reason I require this is that the first time I taught online is that I had 25 students, and about 80% of them handed me an assignment that said assignment 1.doc, and I couldn't keep track of who does what, and therefore I started this naming convention, and it solved that problem immediately. If you don't follow the naming convention, I will reduce your grade 25% each time that you turn in an assignment that doesn't follow that naming convention. So please follow the instructions that I've given you. Important dates, you can read this on your own, and that should be the first column right here. Classroom policies. If I find a better way to do something, I reserve the right to change the syllabus. That may be reorganizing something or adding a video or something of that nature, which will actually help you in learning the subject matter. Things I won't change are things that could be onerous to you, like, for example, all of a sudden making the grading scale 95 to 100 is an A. I'm not going to do that. So anything that I change is going to be for the benefit of you. And finally, here's some information about me, my professional certifications, and a little biography about me. And the reason I put this in here is because I find that students, if you're looking at a talking head or listening to me online, you don't realize that I'm a human being. I have a background. That's why I like students to come in and see me, if you're in during my office hours. Stop by and let's talk for a few minutes so I get to know a little bit about you. I can't do that when you're online. And the reason I put together the biography is so you realize that I'm a human being too. And some of my professional publications, most of which you won't be interested in, although there is some stuff here on Linux. And if you want to read any of these, like if you can't go to sleep at night and need something boring to read, let me know. Anyway, that ends this brief video on the introduction to the course. What you need to do now is to make sure that you, if you haven't already, download the syllabus and read it in its entirety. Make sure you understand it. Visit the class website, which is the PBWorks site, which is listed up here. And if this doesn't take you there, go to the news section and click on that link, and that will take you directly there. And then make sure that you bookmark that for future use. Download the free textbook, and you might start reading that. And let's get started. This course should be fun, and it's really important because this course is a prerequisite to all the upper level security and forensics courses. And I think that probably 80% of you, from what I've seen in the past, will go on to take my security and forensics courses. So if you do well in this course, the other one should be a piece of cake.